What's up guys, thanks for tuning in. This week we're coming to you from Miller's Ferry Campground in Camden, Alabama. This is an Army Corps of Engineer campground located on the William Danley Reservoir. As you can see behind us, our site has an awesome deck. This is a very unique campground for us as far as Army Corps of Engineer campgrounds go. We're going to take a walk around. We're going to show you some of the cool things about this campground, and then we'll give you a kind of a tour of this site. Probably the best site in the whole place as far as space, as far as having this nice big deck. But we're going to give you guys a look at this place, so stay tuned. The first thing that's really cool about this site and this campground in general is they have all these courtesy docks located all around the campground. This one is probably one of the bigger ones. It's a big U-shaped dock. Gets you right out here to the water. And you see you got a beautiful view of the whole lake right here. Fishing is super popular. There's always bass boats and boats out here and people fishing. And then you got our campsite back up this way. So, I mean, it doesn't get much easier to access the lake than this site right here. So there's some other sites that have courtesy docks located behind them. So we're gonna take a walk and show you those. So we're down here, we're down in campsite 22, which is a big pull through. But as we walk down, most of your sites, if they're back end sites, are going to look just like these. Grass was all grown up when we got here, but they've been in here cutting some grass and blowing off the sites. So they're all looking pretty good, but big sites. And you can see the water from just about every one of them. As you get down just past the campsites, they've got a big boat ramp area down here, so you can launch your boat right here from inside the campground. Plenty of trailer parking in here, and a lot of people bring their boats with them because there's a lot of sites you can pull up right behind your site and dock your boat right there. Then you got your other courtesy docks in between. This is pretty standard setup. So most of the courtesy docks are going to be in between the sites. So got a site here, site over there, with the dock in between. And then these sites are on the inside of the loop. Again, big sites, but the sites on the inside aren't paved. They're all gravel. But again, just a massive site. That's site 43. And this is site number 1. So it's a big back end site. It's right on the corner. So easy to get into, and one of the best sites if you're looking for a dock that's going to be right behind your site. So it doesn't have any shade here really to speak of, but you got this awesome, nice big dock. A lot of the courtesy docks are real short, small, just enough to tie a boat up. But this one is it's a big one. So you got super easy access if you want to do some fishing, or if you got your boat and want to tie it up, we got a nice big dock here to tie it up. And there down the way you can see one of the other courtesy docks they got. So as far as water access goes, this is definitely one of the best Army Corps of Engineer campgrounds we've been to. And it's super convenient having these docks right out behind your site like this. Awesome. So these are the sites that are in the 60s, and they are not concrete pad sites. They're all gravel sites. I mean, you got super good view of the water, but not really any access. The weeds are growing out pretty far, so not really any water access until you get down a ways, down here a little ways, and there is a dock out behind one of these sites toward the end. We'll show that to you. So now we're down here between site 65 and 66, and that's the only dock back here on this loop. It's this little short dock right here. It's right in between these two sites here. So right up here by the entrance or exit, depending on which way you're going, there's a guardhouse. There's 3 big pull-through sites. They all have decks. Not a lot of shade on these, but if the campground was full and it was a busy weekend, these would be pretty nice because they're really kind of over here away from everything else going on. They're really over here by themselves. Yeah, these sites are site 37, 38, and 39. So we're walking around here in the middle of the week, so it's not super busy. A lot of the sites down by the water already taken up, but for the most part, not a lot of people here in the middle of the week. Again, you can see all these sites are, all these sites are huge. They're plenty big. So sites 31 over here and 32, you have to back up. The driveway is on a pretty good angle, so you'd have to back up the driveway. But your actual pad up top is really, really big and flat, so even though your driveway is on an incline, you shouldn't have an issue getting your rig in here and getting it set up. And again, here's your view. It's just a beautiful, beautiful view of the lake from this site. And this is site 24, 2 spots down from where we're at. In 22, we're right over there. So the cool thing here, right on the other side of site 24, walk through the little path, and you got another dock here. So this dock, you can't see it from our site. It goes around our site, just around that little point right there. But yeah, this is your view from this dock. And this dock is out here between sites. So 24 on that side, 25 right over there, and then your dock right here in between. So that pretty much does it. That's kind of the highlighted sites. There were some other sites down there, but there were folks in them, had the boats tied up, so didn't want to intrude on their privacy and put their whole setup out there in YouTube land. But that gives you a really good idea of what all these sites look like. They're all really, really similar. The lady there, when we checked in, said that site 22 is probably the best one in the whole place. So she was a big fan of it. We're definitely a big fan of it. How can you not be? You have this beautiful deck right out here. You can see the lake that way. You don't have a real wide open view of the lake, but you can just walk down to the dock and get that.
So now that we've shown you the good about this campground and this campsite, we're gonna show you some of the not so good.
Yeah, I wouldn't say bad. There's really nothing bad about it, but some of the, I think not so good covers it pretty well. When we first showed up here,
first thing we noticed was the flies.
Yeah, they were evident immediately as we pulled up. As soon as we were setting the fifth wheel up, we had flies everywhere. There were a lot of flies. You know, it's to be expected. Obviously, you're outdoors. There's gonna be some flies sometimes, especially when you get down in the south and the weather's warm. We're no stranger to having flies around a campsite.
Which is why we had on hand a fly trap sticky tape. So I remembered that we had that, and I said, okay, it's time to pull that out. So we're gonna show you what that looks like.
Yeah, we haven't broke that out in a while. And even when we did before, we would only snag, you know, maybe 3 or 4 flies, some flying bugs. Not here. Here we have, I don't know if we got them all, but my goodness, we've got a bunch of them.
And that's not counting the ones that we've killed with fly swatters.
We've tried to single-handedly decimate the fly population around Miller's Ferry Campground. I think we've done a pretty good job so far. There's definitely not as many flying around out here now as there were, but that's the first probably drawback that we saw. The second one didn't take long for us to discover either, and that was ants. Ants inside the fifth wheel. I mean, we were only set up for a few hours and we already had ants coming inside. Now, we know from experience in the past, whenever we've had ants in the fifth wheel, it seemed like their entry point is always our front jacks. So I went up there and looked. Sure enough, ants climbing up the front jacks. A lot of ants. So because of our history with having ants in the fifth wheel, I'll show you what we keep on hand. Terra liquid ant bait. So that's what we keep on hand. Once I realized there were ants here, I started looking around, and it appears somebody else has had an issue with ants as well. You can see some dust sprinkled around what looks like it was probably a jack pad. Go back here. That was probably sprinkled around a couple of tires. Here's the other jack pad. Another jack pad. So somebody has clearly had an issue with ants when they were in the site. Probably the people before us. That kind of brings us to our third thing that we weren't super thrilled about when we got here. You know, immediately when we pulled up, we were very excited when we saw the site. Very excited. Had the flies flying around, made us a little less excited. But then we discovered this, and this probably did not help the fly situation at all. That's the fire pit, and there's a tremendous amount of trash left in the fire pit. The grill on the other side over there wasn't cleaned out. The grill grate still has a bunch of crud on it, and there's old charcoal still left in the bottom. The reason that was a little frustrating for us was because we actually received a phone call when we were headed this way, calling us, telling us that our site was ready so we could check in early. Check-in is not till what, 4 o'clock? So they called us at 2 and said, hey, our site's ready, we can come on whenever. So we didn't actually end up getting here till between 3 and 4 o'clock. But I mean, I feel like if you're going to call somebody and tell them their site's ready early, the site should probably be ready. And this site was nowhere close to being ready.
So the last disappointing thing about this site was the deck looked amazing, it looked awesome, but as we walked up on it, we noticed some boards sticking up, some nails sticking up on the spots where you sit. Yeah, I mean, they could definitely stand to do some upkeep on some of these decks. I mean, we didn't, you know, even on the docks that we walked out on, definitely some boards starting to pull up. It's definitely time to do some maintenance on some of this stuff. But like right here, if you're not paying attention, you will absolutely trip over that board. You can see they've tried about 7 or 8 or 9 times to fix it, and it's still popping up. So maybe it's time to go ahead and replace some of these boards out here. You know, and then as you walk down here, we got some screws sticking up here. Not quite sure what happened there. And down here, kind of in the corners, you know, where you sit, a lot of screws sticking out here. So definitely could use a little maintenance on some of this, some stuff like this. But so now the question is, would we stay in this site again?
We would stay in this site again, for sure. Out of all the sites that we saw, I think this one, as far as, you know, having your privacy because your campsite is facing the deck, it's facing the lake, the flies are whatever, you're gonna have that.
Yeah, and I mean, the biggest thing is to be prepared. You know, if you're full-time RVing, or even if you're just camping on the weekends,
you know, you're bound to run into these things, especially in the warmer weather. So if you have some ant bait, if you have fly traps on hand, you know, it makes things a lot less stressful and can add to the enjoyment, despite the not so good things that pop up from time to time.
Well, I will say one thing, we haven't noticed mosquitoes as much here as we thought we would. Being around the water, we thought the mosquitoes would be pretty bad. We fired up our thermocells when we first got here, but really we just used them that one night. We haven't really been able to sit outside a lot because the flies have been terrible, terrible. And
we picked a week when it's in the 90s, so
yeah, it's
to
hot.
Be here.
That sun beating down on us right now. I mean, we're out here, let's see, I mean, we're doing this video at 11 o'clock in the morning, and I'm telling you, it's hot already. But, you know, coming from out west and Colorado, and, you know, those temperatures we've been in out there, and rolling back into the south, woo, it's been a wake-up call. And, you know, we're going to be in Florida this summer, you know, for some appointments and things, so I guess we better start getting used to it.
Again.
But, you know, it is what it is. We're going to make the best of the situation. You know, you just got to get out early and do things early in the morning, do things in the evening time. But we would stay here again. We would definitely recommend this place. I mean, it's quiet out here. During the week, like when we're here right now, it's just about empty. I mean, there's some people down on the lakefront sites that have the courtesy docks.
Another thing to note is how far out it is from town. Have everything you need, because the closest grocery store is the Piggly Wiggly, which is 20 minutes away. There's also a Dollar General right there. But for the closest Walmart, you're 40 minutes away.
Yeah, so not super close. Not super close to anything. So we tried to stock up, and we forgot 2 things. So I made a run to the Piggly Wiggly yesterday, and you know, it's pretty good ways away. I mean, it's about 20 minutes to get there. So, you know, by the time you get there, go in, I only had to grab 2 things and come back, and, you know, I was still gone for about an hour. But, you know, just be ready, just be prepared, have everything you need when you get out here, and you'll have no issues. The lake is beautiful. If you have a boat, kayak, anything like that, bring it for sure, because it's a beautiful lake. The weather's been outstanding. It's been hot, but hasn't been super crazy windy out here. And having the docks right there behind a lot of these sites, or in between these sites, is awesome. I will leave a link below, of course, to the book that we used to find all these amazing Army Corps of Engineer campsites. You know, we've not been disappointed by one yet. There are some that are a little better than others. This one's pretty high on the list, even with those drawbacks that we mentioned. We appreciate you guys watching, and we'll catch you guys down the road.